Hello, everybody. Solus here. I just wanted to apologize for not being on my upload schedule. I've kind of had school, but that's not important. What's important here is that today I'm going to be bringing you of what if Deku had Ultra Ego. I know you guys have been patient with this one, but please don't kill me. With that out of the way, please make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Anyway, let's get right into the video. As we start our story, we see a man who goes by the name of All For One. He made his brother take one of his quirks that he forcefully put on him, as he would have put his quirk of stockpile onto his little brother Yoichi Shigaraki, as he would have thought of something. Maybe I can use a quirk in the near future if this quirk does ever choose a host. I'll let it roam free, as he would summon a quirk and would let it shoot up into the air to disappear for now. As you would have guessed it, this is Ultra Ego, but not in any normal form, more or less a spirit form, waiting to choose its next host, or its first and ever last host. As we see a random woman by the name of Inko Midoriya, who has large violet purple hair, as she would have had a one-night stand with a man who we shall not disclose. Actually, let's just give him the name of Hisashi. Rinko, after having a one-night stand with this man, would have gotten pregnant, as we see her 9 months later giving birth to her child, as she would have named him Izuku after sorry, I just sneezed really hard and my ribs hurt. After a while, we see Inko putting the adoption folders, as she never wanted a child. So she put him up for adoption at a local adoption center. By the age of 2, we see Izuku finally being put into an orphanage, where they would take care of him for the years to come. Izuku, still not having a quirk, would meet a girl with blue hair. As you could probably guess, this is Nejire. As 2 years would go by, as Izuku is 4 at this time, he and Nejire would have been really good friends, as he would have also had a best friend. His name would have been Draken, because I just watched a lot of Tokyo Revengers, and now I'm kind of hooked on Draken right now. Like, he's really good. If you haven't watched Tokyo Revengers, I am so sorry. There was a car back there with its annoying ass car engine. But without that anyway, I hope it didn't distract you. If you haven't watched Tokyo Revengers, go watch it. It's a pretty good show. It's not the best, but it's pretty good. As we see the boy named Draken, as Izuku and Draken would not have had the good of a relationship at first, but after a while of him and Draken being more or less closer to each other, as they were forced to, they kind of numbed out the or opposites in their relationship, and more or less kind of, just blended in with each other. they're more or less cool with each other. And they're not like at each other's throats. No, they're more or less calm. As they were not good kids, they were more or less troublemakers. As Izuku was more into gangs and other things like that. As Draken was also into that as well. As they would have had a little, fights here and there on the outside. Right? When they were just, 6. As Izuku went to the quirk doctor at the age of 5, and they would have diagnosed him as quirkless. As Izuku would have, had his heart stop for a large bit there, as he would have just seen his entire personality shattered to pieces. The thoughts of him becoming a hero were now impossible to achieve. As we see him go back to the orphanage where he and his other family live, as we see him go up to Draken and say, I am quirkless. I don't have a quirk. As Draken, being the best friend he is, he would have consoled Deku and said, don't let that get you down. You don't need a quirk to become a hero. Right, Nedre? As he would have just, pointed at Nedre saying, yeah, you can become a hero. You don't even need one to do. You don't even need a quirk, right? As the Deku would have gotten his reinsurement, or his composure back, as he would have thought, my friends have my back. I don't need a quirk. As we're gonna do a little time skip of, 6 years, 6 or 7 years. Deku is now at the age of 12. We see Izuku working on his body a little bit, not too much, but not too little. He's just getting the perfect amount of exercise, as Izuku has around the perfect fit body. Not too bulky, but not too skinny. He's just at the right amount of muscle mass. As we see Izuku slowly only walking around with Draken, his best friend. As just to say, Izuku and Draken, they don't go to the same school as Bakugo or Todoroki. No, they don't go out there. Their orphanage is more or less a run-down place. It's not in the best of conditions, but it's not in the worst as well. But anyway, let's get back to Deku's POV. They're walking down the streets as they do mess with some gangs at certain points. As we see a member of a Yakuza just, say, hey kids, what are you doing here? You're not supposed to be here. This is Yakuza territory. As Draken and, Izuku would have been like, a Yakuza member? Really? Wow, I never knew there was still a name looking. As the Yakuza member would have gotten really fucking pissed. As he would have just said, hey boys, let's teach these kids a lesson. As Izuku would have started to, he's like, oh shit, we gotta go, Draken. As Draken, I'm going to tell you this right now, he's also quirkless. As the orphanage would have known them as the quirkless duo. As, they would have started running as they were quite, small. And we see a little purple orb floating around in the sky, as it would sense a person. As it would go down and would see Deku's body. that's currently running away from the Yakuza. As Lior would have sensed the amount of potential he had, as it would have gravitated towards him, as it would have slowly entered his body, like a little spark. Not too big for anyone to notice, but Deku felt a little sting on his back and he went to go smack at it but found nothing. As Deku thought of it as a mere coincidence and more or less just ran away. As we see the Yakuza members gang catch up to Izuku and Draken, as they would have got Draken and more or less Izuku on the ground as they started beating up the two of them, as Izuku fought back and knocked out one Yakuza member, but there were like 6, and the two of them held down Izuku while they started to beat up on Draken. As one of them pulled out a switchblade, and in front of Deku's eyes, he would have saw Draken got stabbed, and in the guts around 3 times, as Draken would have fell to the ground, bleeding out. As we see Izuku, who started crying and saying, "Draken, no, you bastards, you fucking bastards, what have you done?" As the Yakuza members would have been like, they would have just been having a laughing time. As it was saying like, "Oh, what, kid? What are you gonna do? You mess with the Yakuza, this is what you get. And kids like you should be meddling in adults' business." As Izuku would have just started feeling the hatred grow in his body, as he felt out the news of being Turdy's quirkless from the bullying he's get at school, but also the composure and the memories he's had of him and Draken, all the fun times. As Izuku, after enough rage boiling over, a violent aura erupted from his body. As Draken would have saw this with his own 2 eyes and would have looked in astonishment. As he saw Izuku with bright purple violet hair flowing with his dark and violent aura. As Draken's eyes would have glowed in absolute amazement as he saw his best friend unlock a quirk. As he slowly said, "Good job, Izuku. You're your quirk. But I don't think it's the same for me." As he would have said with closing his eyes. As he would have saw with his closing eyes, Izuku beating all the men to near death. As Izuku, in the amount of despair and sadness, sorrow, and rage, he would have just almost beat all of them to death. But as a hero would have, shown up, and, more or less gotten Izuku off of the Yakuza members. But at the same time, Izuku was really strong, as Izuku would have also gotten some hits off of the Yakuza members. That just made him stronger and stronger. As if you don't know what Ultra Ego is, let me explain real quick. Ultra Ego, think of it as the more damage you take, the more stronger you become, but the damage you take will affect your body and you're not immune to damage. Just think of it as Ultra Instinct, dodging fatal blows with extreme agility, and not much power. But think of Ultra Ego as a tanking one, like just a pure tank that deals a lot of damage, can withstand damage, and can throw back damage a lot faster. As Izuku would have gotten around 10 hits to the face, as that would have been 10 and 10 or more or less 2% of 2% permanent stronger damage to his body. As his body would have gotten stronger, 2% permanent. As after a while of the hero trying to, calm Izuku down, as Izuku would have gotten back his senses and composure, as he would have run over to Draken and said, "Draken, wake up. Wake up. Wake up, damn it. You and me are gonna be heroes together. Don't you fucking forget that, god damn it." As he would have started shaking Draken very violently, as Izuku would have looked down at his heart rate, or would have put his ear to his chest and would have heard no heart beating, as Izuku knew the worst day had happened, and this day was today. He saw his best friend die in front of him, a gruesome death to a bunch of villains and gang members. Once the ambulance got there, they would have taken Izuku and Draken to the hospital, as they would have checked Draken for a lot of damages to his body, but realized he's dead. But they would have done as much things as they could to try and save him, but alas, he was too far gone to be brought back. As for Izuku, on the other hand, he was more or less fine, just with a few bruises and a couple of fractured bones. As Nejire and the other kids from the orphanage would have come there, as Izuku was just bawling his eyes out. His eyes are red from the amount of crying he's done, and the loss he's had. As he would have just had Nejire there just for support, or for someone to lean on for right now, as he's currently going through a mental breakdown of how they knew they did some bad things, but they didn't deserve any of this. They were just some innocent kids going at the wrong place at the wrong time. As we see Izuku more or less go back to the orphanage, where they would have had a funeral for Draken, as he was more or less a good brother to everyone there, as Izuku and Nejire would have had a much more difficult time going through the mourning process, as we see Izuku realize the cold, hard truth of the world, as Izuku would have more or less realized that villains are not normal people. They do what they must to survive, that including gang members, Yakuza members. As I'll give you a little hint, those Yakuza members were members of the Shi Hasaikai. There are Yakuza members of Overhaul's group. As Overhaul's still not in command of the Shi Hasaikai still, but he's still more or less a child now, so. No, more or less an adult by the time now. As we see Izuku grow up a lot more colder, more or less ruthless, and more so prideful in the abilities he have, as he takes the pride he has from his best friend, who always saying, if you have something to be good at, you should be proud of that. Never be down on something you're good at and that others judge you for. As Izuku takes that with pride and stride. Izuku is very prideful, not too prideful to where he's Bakugo, but just enough pridefulness where he knows that he can be beat, and knows that he is not the strongest, but he will do everything in his power to become the strongest and avenge his fallen friend and destroy every single villain that he sees in his wake. As we do a little time skip of I'm gonna say 16 years, as Izuku is 18, as Izuku would have been working his body out a lot more than he would have been in usual. Now he has the more body physique of Sung Jinwoo from Solo Leveling. You don't have to ask me how he looks like, just go search up on Google or something. As we see Izuku still more or less go back to the orphanage after a bit, and he would have gone to school, or more or less his high school, as in this UA is a college. If they're not colleges, then they're probably for a certain reason, but let's not get into that. As we see Izuku in a class where he is with Nejire, right, as you know, the teacher would have come in and say, "Alright, kids, I brought these job applications, and for what things you want to go for, or what do you want to be?" As all the students will all groan in disappointment, as the teacher is saying, "I'm just kidding. I know you all want to be heroes." As you would throw the paper up in the air, as all the students would start using their quirks to their absolute delightment. That's including Nejire, as Izuku just sits there and just all calmness and seriousness, just taking pride in what he has, but not showing it off. As he has more personality of Vegeta from Dragon Ball Super, but more of the bits of Dragon Ball Z Vegeta as well. He's pretty ruthless, but not that much. As we see Izuku not do anything, as Nejire would just be bugging him of curious questions. As after the death of Draken, more or less, she would have gone back to the same old bubbly, curious self she is. As Izuku would have just be telling Nejire to calm down. And as Nejire say, "Izu, we're finally going to UA. We're finally going to be going to the UA entrance exam." As she would have started quickly writing her application for UA. And as Izuku would have just been staring at her and be like, "Yeah, UA." As he would have still not have gone over the loss of his friend, but more or less has gotten over it overall. As we see him write down UA as his number one thing. As the teacher would have collected all the papers and said, "Oh, we got 2 students here going to UA. Right. Nejire. Yes, your quirk, Surge, or Wave Motion, yeah. That could definitely get into UA. You got good grades, a strong quirk. I can see you doing your best out there." And the next we got Izuku. You have good grades, but I don't know. Oh, your quirk is still unknown. We don't know for sure if you'll get in. You still haven't told us anything about your quirk, young man. And Izuku said, "That's for me to know and for you not to know." As the teacher would have just gotten a bit scared for a second there, Izuku would have been like, "Alright, well, that's the end of class. All of you go home." As Izuku would have left with Nejire right beside him. As Izuku would have, just been blushing a little bit as he's right next to Nejire. As Draken would have always used to bug him on how he had a crush on Nejire, and how he was always the best man just to push him into the right situations with her and to make them both feel embarrassed. As, we see Izuku and just saying, today's been a real fun day, I guess. As he would have more or less left with Nedry to go back to the orphanage. The sludge villain accident would not have happened for the case that he's not at Bakugo's school or near the area where they are. As I'm just to say, All Might still does save Bakugo from this. Well, no, the sludge villain never got out, so Bakugo never met All Might. And the villain got captured. And so would begin the 10 months of training. While Izuku, who has been training, he would have more or less asked Nedry to spar with him. As Nedry would have said, okay. As Izuku was still not revealing his ultra ego, as he would have so-called labeled it or named it. Izuku would have more or less went into certain parts of ultra ego in a spar with Nedry. As both of them would have gone considerably stronger in these coming 10 months, as they both would have saw a paper on the news and would have said, Dagba Beach, still covered in trash, need of cleaning soon. As Izuku and Nedry would have gotten the idea to go wash that beach, each as they would have done so. But at the same time, they would have saw a boy with an old man, a blonde boy with an old man, training there as well. They wouldn't have mind, so they would have just done their part. Alright, as that's where I'm going to be leaving it off. I hope you guys enjoyed of today's episode and beginning series of What If Deku Had an Ultra Ego. I know this may not seem like the best first part, but I'm just came back from school and I'm really tired. Alright, so I'm sorry for that. But besides that, have a good, nice day, and peace.